take a seat. So I'm Representative Karen Alzate from the city of Pawtucket, and I am chairing this commission. Thank you all for being here. If we want to just go around and introduce ourselves.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'm Representative Greg Amori from the city of East Providence. Thought I did. Okay, there we go. My name is Richard Martin. I'm representing NEARI.
Hi, I'm Michael Brochart with Teach for America, Rhode Island.
Hello, Dream Paul with Breakthrough Providence.
Thank you all so much. And today we have with us two students. Please correct me if I say your name wrong. Aja Johnson.
I'm sorry, it's Asia Johnson.
Asia Johnson, thank you. And Daracel Velez. Okay, well, thank you so much, and looking forward to hearing from the both of you.
So thank you for having us today. My name is Daracel Velez.
My name is Asia Johnson.
I'm a senior at Central Falls High School.
I am a junior at Central Falls High School.
And we want to preface by saying that a lot of what we will be saying today is anecdotal and based off our personal experiences. We don't want to bombard you with statistics or anything that you can find when you research information on your own. We want to be able to give you the insight and valuable opinion from students that you may not be able to find easily out there. So we're just going to give you brief background on where we come from, who we are, just to start off.
So I am Filipino and African American, and that's definitely different from what you would know with CF being a Hispanic dominant community.
So I have grown up in Central Falls my whole life. I'm Puerto Rican. A lot of my peers and people I have grown up with are also of Hispanic descent. People are Guatemalan, Colombian, Mexican, and a whole different plethora of different communities, Cape Verdean, and we are just very diverse in that aspect. Growing up in Central Falls, it's definitely been an experience of being a tight-knit community. We are just 1 square mile, so everyone kind of clicks together and supports each other in times of need.
I have only been a resident and a student at Central Falls High School for the past 2 years, and it is definitely different from the other schools and places that I have lived. And Central Falls definitely is a tight-knit community. Everybody knows each other, everybody comes close, even the high school.
So at the high school, I've been at the high school since my freshman year, so I've been there for 4 years. There's definitely good and bad experiences. There are teachers who really believe in you, teachers who really support you and try to motivate you to reach your goals that you have set for your future. But there are also some teachers and educators who are not as equitable and supportive in supporting students. And there are definitely stories I can tell about that, and I'll get back to that later, but we'll just switch to Asia.
So coming to Central Falls, this was my first year having a teacher of color, and I have lived in Virginia, and I also have lived in Newport. And it was when I had when I came here and found out that I had a teacher of color, I was definitely ready for the experience, seeing how this was going to be my first time. And it definitely is an experience, and it still is. The way he just teaches is different compared to what I've learned. His energy is different. And I'm not saying that because he is a teacher of color, his energy is different and his teaching ways is different. It's just he understands more of the struggles and what us students of color go through. So he just knows like how to cater to our needs and our learning abilities and the way we do learn and how our minds work. And it's definitely, I could say he has been my favorite teacher so far, Darsa.
Yeah. So I have the privilege of having that teacher as well, and it's actually the teacher who invited us to come here today, which is Dr. Upegi. And having Upegi, you know, there's a minority experience that people just understand when you are coming from an underrepresented background. He attended Central Falls High School himself, so he understands some experiences that just can't be taught to someone who's coming in from, like, let's say Barrington or another community where they didn't grow up in Central Falls. And I think that's a big aspect in hiring educators who are fit to support students for what they need to be supported in. There's a lot of things that I feel like I need specifically during my senior year, especially being a first-generation student applying to college. There's people in the building who just don't understand that first-generation experience because it's something that's exclusive to that minority experience, and it's not something that you can teach someone easily and tell them, well, this is what it's going to be like, this is what it's going to feel like, because learning that versus actually feeling it yourself is very different. And I think that's something that has really contributed to me coming to terms with my identity as a whole. Like in elementary school, all of my teachers, none of them really looked like me. All of my teachers were white, and so it was just kind of a very different shift into an environment where teachers began to slowly look more like me, but it wasn't something that was very prevalent. And in elementary school, I used to tell my teachers I wanted to be the president. So that was something that they supported me in, and that was something that was like really great. But like in high school and when you kind of get older, it's not as nurturing and supportive for educators to always see those dreams for students and support them in opportunities and bringing them in spaces like this space today to really promote their future and how they can better equip themselves as leaders. That was really heavy. Okay. So adding on and building onto that, specifically about personal anecdotes, I've had positive experiences for the most part, and I think that's because I'm a very high achieving student. You know, I'm always making sure I'm doing the best that I can, but it's important to recognize that there are students who are in need and they may not be fit as like perfect A students, but that doesn't discredit them or make them any less of a great student than anyone else. And I think that's a big thing that you begin to notice when you're in Central Falls sometimes, is that sometimes some students are looked at as like the exception, or like the students that aren't like the other students and that they're different. But like I still come from like the same crop as everyone else, and like we are still that community as a whole, and I don't want to be seen as just this exception. Yes, I have my greatness, but everyone has their greatness, and just because it's the two of us sitting here today doesn't mean that there's so many more stories and so many more great things that you're not going to be able to hear, because I can't speak to everyone else's experiences, and there are so many people in the building who have so much to offer and so much to say. You can speak about more. Do you want to speak about more about? Yeah.
So continuing on to what she was saying, we were gonna say an experience that she just described. So me personally, I do not come from a Hispanic background, so coming to CF was definitely different, and it definitely shows that some of the teachers do have what they are expecting and not catering to the other students. I was actually in a classroom, and because I wasn't on the same level as the other students, because I was the only student there that was first language English, I was told to drop out of the class because I did not speak Spanish fluently on some of the things I didn't understand. So it was basically me not being able to keep up with the work because what she was giving us wasn't meeting the criteria that I needed help in. So yeah, I was basically told to drop out of my class and go to a different one because all of the other students, they spoke Spanish. That was their first language. So whenever she would talk in class and she would only talk in Spanish, they understood what she was saying. And when I would ask her to translate, she wouldn't. She told me that being here, I needed to know Spanish.
And validating that experience, that just highlights the need for students to be seen and be supported in the classroom, because the classroom is like the foundation of where their future will end, like will lead them and take them, because there are very very serious issues that go on that should not be dismissed during this conversation, such as issues like the school to prison pipeline, or the fact that students aren't always attending school because of personal things going on in their life. There are so many factors that play into why aren't people of color in these underrepresented backgrounds, where they need to be. Why aren't there more minorities supporting students and spaces where they need to be supported the most? And I think the question just has so many different levels to it. But to start off, it's just really, how are students being treated in the classroom, and how does that support them to be in a position where they can help students in the way that a teacher like Dr. Peggy, for example, has helped other students. I know from my experience, when I have a teacher like you, Peggy, who has a passion for the job, that he's not just there from 8 to 2:30 and then it's like, but after 2:30 he's like done with us and like ready to go home. He's willing to put in the extra time, email us, support us, make sure that he's answering any questions, make sure that the work isn't just busy work, making sure that it's stuff that we'll actually benefit from. Seeing that has inspired me in so many ways, and I would consider being an educator because of what he has done for us. But I also recognize that unfortunately education isn't well respected enough, and educators don't get the appreciation they deserve enough, and that specifically in Central Falls has experienced staff being cut, and that's something that's just very frightening, because I would love to come back to my community and teach students who are coming from a background like me, but I wouldn't feel so secure in that position because it's not a position that's well respected, nor is it a position where we're given as many opportunities to continue building off for. For example, I took a youth and law class, which was a really great experience for me. And because that was something that was more respected and something that was given more opportunities, I considered law more than I would education. If there were more opportunities for education, such as like fellowships or like helping people with the cost of like tuition or anything of that sort, really, that's really alleviating any stress for that process, it makes it easier to want to take that route. But for me, that's something that has definitely made me shy away from it and not want to consider it as much, because I know that going back to being first gen, like, there's a lot of goals that I have for myself and my family. I want to be able to buy my parents a house, and I want to be able to do all these great things for my family. But how am I really going to be able to do that in a position where it's just, I've witnessed the stress that comes with the position, and I've witnessed how hard it can really be on someone, both financially and emotionally.
I agree with what she's saying. I personally have never looked into the education system as a career choice, but being at Central Falls, it did make me look, because I realized that there really wasn't a lot of teachers that looked like me personally, and from other people's experiences, because I know that I could relate, especially being first generation as well, to go to college. But stuff like that really does shy me away from it, and because you never know. Yeah, what else would they have questions?
We'll do that in a second. Another thing that's very concerning is that throughout my 4 years at the high school, only one of the teachers that I've had is Black. And I think that's very concerning, because all of the other teachers are coming from backgrounds where they are nothing like us. And I don't want to say nothing like us, because that seems very, I don't know the word for it. I would say like very definite. Like, there's probably some small similarities between our backgrounds, but when you see someone who has an experience where they have to deal with the intersectionality of bias, and like maybe they're dealing with racial inequity or gender inequity because they're a woman or they're transgender or anything of that sort, bringing those people in, it just validates the experiences that our students are going through even more. And I think that we have to ask ourselves, why is it that there is only one Black teacher in that building? And we have to use her as a resource. We have to ask her, why did she come back to Central Falls? Because she went to Central Falls High School as well. What is it that brought her back? And how is it that we can continue bringing more people back to communities where they're the resource that everyone needs the most? Okay. So we want to thank you for your time, and we just want to encourage this conversation outside of this room, because it doesn't end here, and it's just the starting point, and we hope that more students have the opportunities to talk to you all and have the chance to just really benefit from being heard and being seen. But if you have any questions, we'll take those now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was great. So Dr. Upegi actually did present in front of this committee last March, right before COVID. So we have, he came and gave us, his testimony, which was amazing. Anybody have any questions? Yes, Frank.
Because it's going to be a long time before we ever get a much larger cohort of teachers because the candidates just aren't in the pipeline. So we need to fix the perceptions and the problems that are in the pipeline while we work on increasing the number of teachers that represent the populations that we deal with.
So in Central Falls specifically, I know that there are a lot of different programs where students are able to benefit from like services, like there's Upward Bound, College Crusade, and things like that help them with FAFSA forms and things of that sort. And we're fortunate to have counselors who are able to meet with us and support us through those processes. When I made that statement, it was primarily about like the experience of coming to school, balancing the stress. Like with COVID hitting Central Falls as hard as it did, a lot of people started to work, and that was a source of income from for them and their families, and that was a very big toll on. Imagine being 17, 16 years old and you're taking on this responsibility of working to make sure there's food in your house and the bills are being paid, and you have a younger sibling who needs help with their work. Your parents are, relying on you, and I think that's just something that some people just don't understand as much, because let's say I were to miss an assignment and that was the situation I found myself in, it would be something that just isn't understood, and that's something that definitely needs to be worked on. For example, I know that this year there was a student in my class who was falling asleep in the back of the room. He works a job, so he was just really tired from that, and it wasn't something where he just didn't care or just like didn't want to show up and he was just slacking. He was just very tired, and then afterward the teacher kind of made it a very humiliating situation for them and called them out in front of everyone. And then afterward, when that happened, like we were kind of given a lecture about like work and how that teacher was able to work, so if they're able to work while they were growing up, then we should be able to balance that too. But it's a very different experience, and working like overnight, which is what some people do, is very different in comparison to working a part-time job just for the work experience, in comparison to sustain livelihood and just everything that your family needs.
Thank you very much. Just one more comment. More of an apology to the children of Central Falls. The school district is underfunded significantly, and unlike any other place, and we deal with most of the urban school districts, they don't offer at your high school nearly any of the fine arts programs, for example. We virtually have no fine arts program in that high school, and they've been cut for the last decade. And all of the support services that these students get, particularly the academic support like mathematics instruction and reading instruction, have been eliminated over the course of the past decade. And that's almost criminal. And I can honestly tell you, it would not have been tolerated in any other district in the state. The parent groups and the school committees would not have tolerated that anywhere else. But it's allowed to go on in Central Falls, and we owe you an apology, because that's really, undermined the comprehensive education that you folks should be entitled to.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions? Yes.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate your testimony. I'm an educator as well, as Mr. Martin next to me is an educator as well. Have you had any of your high school teachers say to you, you'd be a great teacher. You should consider a career in education. Has that experience happened?
That experience has happened to me actually many times from different teachers. It's just they would explain when they said that, and I asked them why. They would always say that I'm on top of my work. I'm a scholar in their class and on my other classes in the leadership skill roles. But when I discuss it with them more, they don't really make being a teacher or an educator feel like a good thing. Like they don't say the benefits or like the good feelings I'd get out of it, helping other kids learn like what you're passionate about and want to teach. They'd kind of not like downplay it, but the conversation wouldn't end up at the end of me saying, yes, I want to be an educator.
For me, I have had that conversation. Ironically, I had it with you, Peggy, before coming here. So it was something that just sits in the back of my mind, and I have been told that it would be something that would be up my alley. I love helping people, and I love being able to be in a space where I can just help people better themselves. And I think that with more progress, it is something that I would consider, and it's definitely because of the teachers that I have had that have made me want to pursue something that they did so well.
I think we'll probably hear from Mr. Martin in a bit. That recruiting effort in places like Central Falls is really the key to us making a dent in this issue. But we have to incentivize it as well. Right? We have to make sure that as you spoke to eloquently, you feel obligated to go out there and earn a good living and a sustainable job so you can take care of your family and yourself, and that's a legitimate concern. And so we have to make sure we incentivize ladies like you and others to come into the profession. If I recall correctly, Dr. Peggy is a science teacher, right? So are you science-oriented students, or is he just so inspiring that that's your favorite class? Because a social studies teacher like myself, I could have somebody juggling in front of me in science class, and I would still be bothered by the content. So are you science-oriented, or is he just that good that you have been able to get interested?
Me personally, I've always been science oriented, and my favorite subjects are math and science. But when I started taking you Peggy's anatomy class, it made me fall in love with the medical field. And so that is what I am looking forward to doing as a career, but just he enhanced me wanting to pursue a career in science.
For me, I am not a math and science person. I'm the opposite. I am more English, social studies. Those are my strong suits. But with that science class, even from the beginning of the year, because I'm taking AP biology with you, Peggy, he makes sure that we understand that science isn't just about what's going on in that classroom and what the college board is expecting us to cover in this course of the school year. Science is just part of our existence. It's just part of just our whole entire livelihood in this world. And I would not say that I absolutely love science, but if I'm being honest, AP biology is probably my favorite class that I'm taking this year, because it's not just today we're going to be talking about the nucleus and all of these different organelles. It's us talking about real people who struggled, real people who were able to be innovative pioneers. In class, we talk about people like Dr. Lynn Margulis. We talk about Wilma Rudolph, the Olympic runner. And it's just, when we talk in class, it's not just a science environment. It's just a human connection environment where he sees us, we see him, and it's a mutual respect. And he is always telling us not to believe people from outside of our community who may not believe in us, because he believes in us. And we do have so much greatness and so much potential, and to be seen in that room, it just makes it, even though it's science, and I'm not a big science person, it just makes it just feel so great to be seen, to be represented, and to be able to have someone who really believes in you.
And Chairwoman, just one more point. I think you've both made some really key points here today that need to be stressed continuously. And one of those points is that we need to meet students where they are, without preconceived notions of where they came from or what their issues are. We need to meet them where they are. So when you talk about someone who's working overnight to provide for their family, we need to adjust and make the adjustment for that student to try to figure out a schedule that works for them, so that we can meet them. And I'm a 55-year-old white social studies teacher from East Providence. So we may not have much in common, but we do have in common the fact that I was the first person in my family to go to college. And I came from a blue-collar home, one generation separated from immigrants. But I can tell you after teaching for 20 years next to the gentleman to my left, that when I walk into his classroom and see the response that students of color have to his course, I know that I can't do that. As effective as I'd like to think I am as a social studies teacher, I can't do what he does. And so I acknowledge that, and you did a great job today of describing that, and you came up with the right word. So I thank you for your testimony. It was really informative. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you so much. As someone who had to work my senior year in high school to help provide for my family when my dad was deported, I was the kid in the back, trying to just graduate at that point. And I went to Tolman, right? So a lot of my friends went to Central Falls. What you said resonates a lot with me and my friends growing up. And so I'm so appreciative of your honesty. And just you girls brought it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So you ladies are all set. Mr. Martin, if you're up next. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.